Okay, in 5.
Okay, so today we're going to talk about the sociological imagination. So we're going to start off with some learning objectives that I want you guys to be able to have and understand by the end of this lecture. So understand what the sociological imagination is and why it is important when studying the social world. Be able to distinguish between personal troubles and societal issues, and be able to apply the sociological imagination when analyzing contemporary issues such as poverty, healthcare, and the pay gap. So the sociological imagination was created by a man named Wright Mill. He lived from 1916 to 1962. He was an American sociologist and a professor at the Columbia University, and he was a professor until he died in 1962. So he considered himself a rebel against the academic establishment. He really believed in this term called public sociology. He believed that sociology should not just be studied by academics, but people in society should use sociology to think about social issues. Some of his popular works were The Sociological Imagination, The Power Elite, and White Collar, the American Middle Class. So here's a quote by Wright Mill. The more we understand what is happening in the world, the more frustrated we often become, for our knowledge leads to feelings of powerlessness. We feel that we are living in a world in which the citizen has become a mere spectator or a forced actor, and that our personal experience is politically useless and our political will a minor illusion. So, what is the sociological imagination? Well, Mill said that it was the intersection between biography and history, or the interplay of self in the world. This is sociology's task and promise. So, what does that mean? So it's basically a framework to view the world that allows us to understand the relationship between individual circumstances and larger social forces. So you can think of the sociological imagination as a camera lens. So we can zoom in and capture only a small picture, or we can zoom out and view the entire landscape. So the sociological imagination requires us to step outside of our own beliefs, values, and experiences in order to see the big picture of what's going on. This perspective allows us to uncover the roles that culture and structure play in the creation and perpetuation of social problems. And this allows us to link the macro and micro levels. And we cannot understand an individual's life without also understanding the history of the society. So the sociological imagination allows sociologists the ability to distinguish between problems that occur to only a few specific individuals and issues that affect the entire society. Mills called these differences personal troubles and public issues. So, what forces shape our everyday lives? At the individual level, this is our daily social interactions and how we form our identity, like how we express ourselves, how we dress, how we wear our hair, things like that. And then there's the public, societal level. And this is where we look at institutions. And institutions are social systems that control which norms, behaviors, and beliefs are acceptable in society. These institutions control and shape our daily decisions. So some examples of institutions are things like family, religion, economics, education, and mass media. So going back to the concept of personal troubles versus public issues. Personal troubles occur within the character of the individual and through relations with others. Mill said that a trouble is a private matter, values cherished by an individual are felt to him to be threatened. So an example of this is, in a marriage, a man and a woman may experience relationship problems, and that is unique to them and them only. Well, a public issue occurs when matters go beyond the individual level. And Mills said that it is an issue, is a public matter, some value cherished by publics is felt to be threatened. So an example of this is if the divorce rate during the first 4 years of marriage is 250 out of every 1,000 attempts, that shows that there's a structural issue with the institution of marriage, not just an individual problem. So let's apply this term of sociological imagination using income inequality and crime. So has anyone seen the show Shameless? So, as we know, there's this family called the Gallaghers, and they live in a poor part of Chicago. So, how do they receive their financial income? Well, some of them, Debbie, for example, runs an unlicensed daycare in a cramped house. Carl sells drugs like cocaine. Fiona stole money from a purse she found on the L. Liv sells weed to pay for his college education. Frank commits insurance fraud and Social Security fraud. And Ian does prostitution. So let's think of their situation and how they get their income. Is this a personal trouble or a public issue? So if we look at it in the lens of a personal trouble, well, they chose to drop out of high school and did not attend college. Well, they didn't, but 82% of the population in Chicago was able to graduate high school and move on to higher. Maybe it's the inability to hold a steady job. Well, this shows it's maybe a personal trouble because 66% of the population was able to have a job in the labor force. Or maybe they just possess criminal traits that make them more likely to commit crimes. Maybe they have low self-esteem, or they commit crimes for the thrill of it. Well, if we look at it like a public issue, what institutions affect the Gallaghers' decisions to commit crimes? Well, maybe it's the institution of economy. Chicago's unemployment rate is 6.8%. And based on a census data, Chicago's richest 5% earned $201,000, while the poorest 20% earned an average of $16,000. So there's a rising income gap between the rich and the poor. Or maybe they committed crimes because of lack of education. Poor in high school are put on a vocational track, so they do not take courses that prepare them to move on to other higher education systems. And then there's the higher cost of higher education. The poor don't have the same access to education as the rich. A 2011 survey by Inside Higher Education found that about 35% of admissions directors at four-year institutions increased their efforts to recruit full-pay students. So they no longer want to give out scholarship monies, but they just want to have students who can pay the full cost of going to their institution. Or maybe they committed crimes because of their family institution. They learned from generations of committing crimes to get by financially, and they are also encouraged to commit crimes and awarded when their crime is completed. So this brings me to the so what question. The sociological imagination allows sociologists to analyze the social world by using a framework that links history of society with the lives of individuals. And this allows sociologists to change their thinking from character blaming and individual pathology to the realization that there are structural issues with institutions. And not only this, but in order to bring social change, we have to understand all of the structural and cultural forces that aid into the manifestation of social problems. So the sociological imagination is imperative when studying sociology and social problems, and it's a core thing that you guys need to have a good grasp on. And